Okay, this is going to be a short video on retipping saw blades. This blade has already had the old teeth knocked off and it's been cleaned up with a nice clean brand new wire wheel. You don't want to get contaminants from the wire wheel into the seats of the teeth. Each one of these seats is going to get a whole new carbide tooth welded into it. This is the flux that I've been using. I'm very happy with it. The word purified doesn't mean that it's had anything removed from it. It simply means that it's been ground finer than their regular flux. It tends to not push teeth off or gum up the way the more coarse flux does. I also water mine down a little bit in a separate container full of ball bearings, and I shake it vigorously to make sure that all of the larger pieces that can stick together over time in the larger jar have been broken back down into their fine qualities. So I use this purified flux for two purposes. One is, of course, to flux the welding areas or the braising areas of the teeth, but I also use it to protect the sides of the teeth and a little bit down the sides of the blade from turning blue in the heat. It just makes the blade a little bit prettier at the end of the process for the customers. It also prevents the need for us to sandblast any of the edges of these blades after they've been fluxed. I'm going to do both sides of the blades first. And if you'll see, there's some buildup in the gullets. I'm going to deal with that at the very end by spreading the excess out and back up onto the sides of the blade. Now I'm going to go into these gullets and make sure that I get all of those teeth cleared of excess, and with a little bit of flux in the seats themselves. Doesn't take very much. You just want the slightest little thin layer on the actual seats to allow the solder to flow before the seat metal gets oxidized by the flame and the heat. Alright, that one's ready. I'm going to set it off to the side, let it dry, and while I do another blade. Okay, so now it's time to solder some teeth on. As you can see on the right side of the frame, I've been practicing with the camera, trying to get it to be able to show the colors of the steel. I'm going to start by heating up the steel of the blade, letting the blow-by of the flame warm the tooth. I can see the solder starting to flow. And tap it in, make sure it's on its seat, and then I pass the tip of the flame on the solder one last time to get it to wick down to the bottom of the tooth. I'm going to do this to the next one. I'm heating up the steel with the tip of the torch and letting the blow-by heat the solder. And once it starts flowing, just tap it into place. I heat the solder one last time, move to the next tooth. Heating up the steel first each time. I want the steel hot before the tooth is hot, or at the same time would be nice, and then one pass along the solder to get it to flow nicely on the bottom side. As soon as the solder starts to flow, that's when you get to push the tooth into place. Heat it up one last time, trying to keep the steel from getting orange. I only want it red. Every now and then you overheat the steel, but that's better than overheating the carbide. This is the next one. And as you can tell, this is time consuming, tedious, and exacting. But the end results are worth the time, because we don't get any blades sent back to us because the teeth fell off. And if we get broken teeth, that's because they ran into something. So that concludes the video on braising carbide tips on the saw blades. I hope you learned something. My name's Dennis Murphy, and I work with ABC Sharpening out of Grass Valley, California. And you all have a wonderful rest of your day. Sorry about the autofocus at the end, but you got the gist of it all. Enjoy. Cheers.